Step into love like you've never been hurt before. Step into trust like you've never been burned before.
Hello and welcome to Braveheart Conversations,
where we learn the art of love through brave and compassionate conversations. I am Jillian Landis.
and I'm Marie Wallace.
And we are your hosts today. Hi everybody, welcome to Braveheart Conversations. Today we are going to be talking about unapology. I know that we talk a lot, I think in lots of different relationships, we talk about when it's appropriate to apologize, and it certainly is appropriate to apologize sometimes and make amends. But when is it not appropriate to apologize? And this has been probably more powerful in my life than the concept of apology has ever been. So
Exactly,
I really want to talk
but not comfortable, right?
Not at all comfortable. So vulnerable.
So vulnerable and so uncomfortable, but so necessary for that happy life that we are all looking to create.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, this really comes up when I have some self-awareness of qualities I might have, and then in the past, because I have really struggled with codependency and really prioritizing other people's needs and their maybe desires or expectations above my own, I would kind of twist myself in a pretzel and adjust myself and adapt myself to whatever their needs were. And I know this is true for a lot of people who identify as an empath. Mm-hmm. We kind of walk into a room and then take the temperature.
It's so true. And then we modify ourselves to the temperature sometimes. Yeah.
And so this is what Unapology really holds for me, is that I no longer need to do that. I can walk into a room. I have that ability. I can see where everybody is at, but I don't have to attach myself to that. And I get to own where I'm at, whether that's my feelings. Maybe I'm really joyful and somebody else is hurting. I don't have to also be hurting or in pain or in crisis. I can still hold my space and still be empathetic.
And hold space for them in wherever they are. Yeah.
Right. And then even more, beyond feelings, I get to own who I am. And I love the quote, have for a long time, you can be the juiciest peach, but there's still going to be somebody that doesn't like peaches.
Yes. I like that quote too. It's so true, because you can walk in that room now and gauge the room, but it's just an indicator of what's going on. Not necessarily something I need to do anything about, but be aware of. And so it's just an indicator. It's no longer something I need to take on.
Right.
I think those of us that are either empaths or flexible, I think flexible thinking sometimes gets into that pattern as well. We'll walk in there and want to be empathetic and feel that's a way for people to like us.
I also think this is a pattern. It can be
that's a codependent pattern too.
Yeah, and trauma.
Oh yeah.
So I just recently went through a mediation training, and two things really popped out to me. One, I did an assessment that was like a childhood trauma assessment, and I scored really high on that, which like the prediction is like use 20 years of your life or whatever.
Yeah, I think I did that too. I got an 8 as well. It's not pretty.
No. So then the other thing though, we took a communication style test.
Oh, okay.
And although I wasn't super thrilled with the assessment, I don't know how accurate it was for me, I came out as accommodating, which just really triggered me to pause and reflect, because I do think when I've been in situations where I felt my safety was in jeopardy, and not, I don't even mean physical safety.
Sure.
Like, we know when somebody's gonna likely get pissed off about something, and when we're walking on eggshells, and if that becomes a long-term pattern, I think it's very easy to start coping with that by being accommodating.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And so unapology to me is the opposite of being accommodating, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage
tremendous amount of courage. And being uncomfortable. I mean, it's very uncomfortable and even scary, because you could lose a relationship in that, and that's not really something that we want to do, but sometimes it's
kind of been a theme lately.
yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's like, or am I going to choose to be myself and then release the people that don't align with that? Or am I going to shift myself and adapt to somebody else's needs and desires? And so if we are practicing being truly authentic and honest with each other and ourselves, like, I think there is a lot more letting go that happens, and we get to embrace that. It's tough.
This being human is complicated.
It is.
It's scary, but at the same time, it's so necessary to truly be happy with who we are and what we are doing. And we've been taught all our lives to be apologetic, right?
Yes.
You should apologize. You should apologize. And there are times that it's just not necessary. And I think that's one of those myths that we get to start. Not to say not to be apologetic when it's necessary, but to really define what that means for ourselves.
And I think it's important, like in conflicts, there's often a lot of pressure to apologize. And I do think that we generally have a part, although I would say generally my part was not being honest about who I was and what I wanted, and maybe not following through with my boundaries. So the things to apologize for were more to myself than they were to the other person. But, I can think back on conflicts where it was so valuable for me to not apologize and to stand in my truth. I can remember when someone was very opposed to me going to the gym in the mornings or getting up early. That didn't work for the other person. And at one point, I would have caved and tried to figure it out another way. But for me, that felt really good. That felt good, and it worked for me. And so it was absolutely me standing in my truth to say, no, this is what I'm going to do, and this isn't any of your business. And I think that is super key, is knowing what's my business and what's not my business.
That's so true. So true. What's my business? The other part that you said that I was thinking of is knowing when to apologize when it's just a miscommunication. I do think that there are times we can say, I'm sorry that I didn't communicate well what my needs were, because that's sometimes just the difference between men and women, or just they communicate differently than we do. Or sometimes it's just a friendship that they thought it was one thing and it's really something different. So there is an apology maybe for the miscommunication, not so much for the values we were holding in that moment, but for maybe not communicating what my actual needs were, whether that was intentionally or not intentionally, because sometimes we intentionally don't communicate our needs. But
we hide.
We hide.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Conflict is super important and valuable. And the perception is that we want less conflict, and I disagree.
I do too.
I think that we are all often very unclear about what we want. In fact, I would say 90% of my coaching sessions are about clarifying what the hell do you want, because you can never communicate what you want with your partner if you don't know what you want.
Well, you're jerking them around too.
Totally. Yeah, it's not fair for you or the other person when you have clarity. So that's like the number one thing that I get to take responsibility for is clarity for what I want.
Agreed.
And what works for me and how I feel, all the stuff to do with me, I get to really clear about that. And then I can take the next step of being clear with my partner. But the cool thing is that conflict helps me in that process, because conflict pushes me to get clear. Because I may really not know what I want, but then, you know, as soon as you start pushing my buttons and telling me, you know, I'll use that same example, you know, why do you have to get up so early in the morning? Well, maybe I don't even realize that that's such a value until we have that conflict. And then I'm like, oh, no, it actually is really important to me that like I really like getting up early. So I think conflict often gets us to really state what we want and stand in that and get clear.
Well, and as we're clear, it makes those decisions of letting go a little bit easier because I'm really clear on what I want. It's a lot easier for me to go down the path and go, yeah, I got to let that go because it's not in alignment. I got to let that go because it's not in alignment. It's a lot easier to make decisions when I do have that clarity. Make decisions without apology because I truly know what I want.
Yes. Yeah, and I like that you brought that up too. If I don't know how to check in to see what's aligned, I'm never, I can't make decisions. And then that is super unfair for both partners because the other person they're confused. They have no idea.
Well, it feels like a roller coaster to them. Up, down, up, down.
Yeah. And so often I'll hear just generalities like, you know, he just doesn't make me happy. And so if you can step back and go,
what makes you happy?
Yeah, what do you want? And, you know, aside from the fact he can't make you happy, you need to make you happy.
What? I heard that in a conversation yesterday. We've been dating for 20 years. How come he still doesn't know what I want? I'm like, yeah. Because maybe you don't either.
Yeah.
You gotta tell him.
I know. We all want people to read our minds.
We have 3 daughters, and all 3 of them said the best advice we ever gave them was tell a guy what you want. But I that's in general, you know, that's girl and boy communication. But I think it's in general, any relationship you're in, just say what you need because we can't read minds.
I think that's true. I also think that's so scary. Because when we step into saying this is what I need and I won't compromise, we run the risk of letting that relationship go. And today I'm like, hell yeah, I don't care. Let it go. Just go. Please go.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a relationship where I'm tiptoeing around and trying to...
It's stressful.
Yeah, that's not me. I want to live authentically today. I've learned this lesson enough years.
Thank your universe. We got the club. We've been beaten too many times with it, so now it's time.
I got it. Thank you.
Well, in addition, that also allows us to put our energy towards things that, like our project, because you and I both have lots of projects in the works, and I can spend my time using my energy towards those things that will help me grow as a person and will help the world, because we both have these world projects, and it's not wasting energy on miscommunication, and not to say, because like you said, conflict is important. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking continued conflict about the same thing, right? When I am able to let it go, then I can focus on the things that really do fuel me towards completing those other things that I'd like to do.
Yeah, and I like that you brought this up too, because and this is a little bit of a segue, but follow me here. So trust is really important. And when I'm unapologetically me, the relationships that really matter, the trust is there that when I say no, or I say yes, or I say this is what I want and who I am, in a trusting relationship, that's accepted. Even though that it might cause disappointment, it's still accepted.
Because that person truly wants what's best for you as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's being compassionate, and like you said, it might be painful, but if you truly are, I think it's a sign of being an adult.
Did I actually cross that that line?
You did. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but to me it seems a very adult thing to be able to say, I truly want that other person to be happy. Even if I really want to be with them or be part of things and it's sad for me, I truly want them to be happy, because that's really what we came to the world to navigate, is how to expand and grow and be happy in this realm. And sometimes, I think we've talked about this in previous episodes too, there's a season of friendships and relationships, and it's hard. The fall comes and the leaves go and the tree is bare, and sometimes that's just the season of things. And
sometimes, yeah. And a word that keeps coming up for me is honor. That's just been so huge.
That's a good word.
In my world lately, and just that, to me, love is honoring. And it is that concept of, even when it's an answer I don't like, even when it's something that, I wish weren't true. And maybe it is a truth that is saying I'm misaligned with you and you need to leave my space. That's still, that's honoring.
You and them.
Yep.
Because you're not jerking them around and you're honoring yourself.
It's honoring what is. And what I realize is, if I'm not in that space, then I'm manipulating.
Well said.
Because if I'm not honoring what is, then I'm attached to some outcome I want, and I'm trying to force it to happen.
Yep.
And that generally doesn't work out well for me. It's certainly not love for me or anyone else.
It certainly isn't.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, but honoring can be a happy thing too.
I know. Let's move that. I'm all about that.
Because honoring could be, honoring somebody else's needs in your relationship may align well with yours. And you probably know a lot about this because you're in a very honoring relationship.
I am, and I'm going to back up a little bit to where you were talking about conflicts, and a lot of people don't want to go there, but I know that's how, one, it gives us clarity, but that's how we deepen our relationship, right? We're not taking care of issues that are on the surface. We're able to just go deeper in our relationships because we have taken care of some of those things, and then we can go, oh, well, let's explore this deeper part of our relationship and honor what that's about as well. And so I think, I don't know, I just wanted to say that conflict is really an important part of getting those deeper, more honoring relationships that you were talking about.
Yes. Well, again, going back to trust, when we have conflict, it's so important in relationships to know, if I have conflict with you, that you're not going to leave me. Right? Conflict doesn't equal we're done.
Yeah.
It's safe to disagree. Safety is so huge. And in this unapologetic realm, I think it's so important that we feel safe. And when we are showing up truly authentic, and people that don't run, those are your people. Those are your people.
Well, and if you don't feel safe, it could be an indicator of something that you need to look at. Why do I not feel safe in this relationship?
Well, I know for me, if I'm feeling like I have to mold myself or adapt myself so that the other person will like me or accept me.
Back to your manipulation.
Yeah, and in a different way.
Sure.
But yeah, it's manipulating the situation so that I don't get rejected, or so that I am accepted, but I'm really not accepted for me. I'm accepted for whatever I'm doing to twist myself into what you want.
I've been there.
Haven't we all?
I know, it's part of the human experience. You're going, I just want to be liked. I have taught school in the past, and that's what you see on the playground all the time, is that people looking to mold themselves to be part of a group or to be, accepted. And so it's a basic ground level need. If you see it in kids, it's probably something that you'll see in adults as well, most
Well,
likely.
it is. It's such a need for us to have connection. And so I think it's hardwired into us to,
Hardwired.
Do whatever we need to find connection. I think it just becomes an unhealthy coping skill to adapt ourselves to find that connection because we're not trusting that the universe is going to bring the right people into our lives if we are truly just ourselves. Like, you can still have connection, even just being fully you.
Like you said, we aren't chained to that chair. There's other experiences out there.
Yeah, you're never held hostage. You can always choose different. Yeah. So if you're in a relationship that's not serving you, you can certainly leave and you will find love. Like,
You will.
It's always there. It's always
And
there.
and fortunately, you're not on an island. So there are people.
No. I read a quote the other day that really made me laugh. This is totally going to be an off-topic segue, but it said, yes, there are plenty of fish in the sea, but you know what else is in the sea? Trash. There's lots of trash.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Made me laugh so hard. Not that people are trash, but I just thought that was hilarious.
That is awesome. That's so true. Now I'll never forget that. It's like, what else is in the sea?
Trash. But that does kind of bring a humorous point that, like, when you do let go of people, you do need to be careful. We've probably all heard the universe abhors a vacuum. So if you have empty space in your life, it will get filled. We've all had that, desk that we just cleared off, and somehow it just starts attracting all this clutter, right?
Never happened to me.
Right. But I mean, when we clear space, there are automatically things that try to fill it. And not that there's like bad people, like trash out there, but I mean, there can certainly be people that are not a match for you, or are not going to build you up and not be encouraging or accepting of you as you are, like we're talking about today. But so it's important what you do choose to fill your space with. When you have, it's very painful to let go. So it's very painful to clear that space. So unless you want to do that all over again, you may want to be more conscious with the people that you choose to fill that space, or, paint that canvas with.
And we do have a limited amount of time and energy. I mean, we're only afforded so much, so it is important to have the people in our space that do bring us joy and fulfillment, that are honoring and aligned. And so sometimes we have to be unapologetic.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more from our listeners too about situations where they are confused about apology. So, if you are one of those listeners that has struggled to know, where do I compromise? Because I hear that a lot. Where do I compromise? Aren't relationships supposed to be compromising?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is. But that really delves into this territory of apology and how much am I molding myself to this relationship? And I think those answers...
And clarity.
Yes, clarity is super important. Knowing what's important to you, knowing what your values are, is very important. But it gets tricky. It really does. When do I compromise? When do I stand my ground? When do I... stand in my truth? And I'd love to hear some of your real life scenarios that you're in this predicament, because I know it comes up for everybody.
It does. And whatever situation that you're in, you can guarantee others are feeling the same way. So please let us know, because it's always nice to have a real life scenario to look at and see, because then we can line it up and see it for what it is, and dissect it and figure out the problem a little bit easier.
I also just want to say, Unapology for me was a a process. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. It was something that it was like a muscle I had to build, you know, because it takes so much courage to, you know, when all these different scenarios come up, that you really are able to say, no, this actually is really important to me, and I'm not really willing to budge on this. Realizing that, as we've talked before, relationships are here to build us up. You know, the whole purpose of a relationship is to help us be better individuals and more supported in the ways that we're here to impact the world. And so when they start to become a hindrance, it's really important to look at why. And I believe all these little compromises and areas where we have apologized for who we are and we've adapted ourselves to somebody else's needs and wants, we start to diminish our shine and what we're here to do. And that relationship then starts to become a detriment instead of an asset to who we are in the world and how we impact the world. So I want that to be clear to our listeners, that if you're in this space and, you know, for a long time, I know I felt some shame around not, you know, I knew I wanted to speak my truth. I wanted to stand in that place, and I just wasn't there yet. And it was baby steps for me. So, you know, I want you to know that no matter where you're at in a relationship, you don't have to be at the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to stand my ground. You know, that's a process. So,
yeah, it's not an all or nothing
yeah,
kind of situation.
So start small.
And also, we will make missteps, and I think that's important to talk about too.
So many.
Is as you're walking along, you'll go, gosh, I should have, and you beat yourself up along the way about the should haves, and just be kind and compassionate to yourself on this journey, because you are learning and you are growing and you will misstep. And I can tell you this from experience too, when you are unapologetic, you'll be unapologetic for a really long time, and then there will come up some little situation that will trigger you, and you'll go, well, I thought I was over that. Obviously, I'm not. So I get to experience it again. And so just know that happens, as well as that you can have a lifetime of being unapologetic and still have situations that trigger you, and you found yourself either trying to manipulate the situation or not letting it go for some attachment needy reason.
Yes.
And it's okay. So just having compassion with ourselves along that journey to know that it's a lifetime gift. Even though it doesn't feel like a gift at the moment, it is a gift.
Well, and for me, when I can frame that, you know, the frustrations of relearning lessons and mistakes, it's like, I'm here to learn. Life is my playground. I'm here to learn. And so all of it is yes. All of it is okay. None of it is a mistake.
No.
You know, all of those moments where I've said something that I go back and I go, what was I thinking? You know, I get to look at that with compassion and realize that brought me to my next learning lesson and gave me some sort of clarity or self-awareness. So it's all useful.
And more happiness. I mean, because it does, in the end, even though it was conflict at the time, it does bring you on that path of happiness too. Because you're being more authentic. And I think when we feel in alignment, that's where the happiness comes from. And the more authentic we can be, the more in alignment we are. And then we're like, oh, you're doing life with ease.
Yes.
So we're enjoying those rides.
Yes.
Life is a playground.
Yes, and we can enjoy all of it, even the emotions. And this is what I hear from a lot of people, is we don't want to feel the anxiety or the sadness or the loss or whatever. And those things are to be embraced too. It's all part of our human experience. It's all part of being alive and being here, and it's all a privilege.
It is. Well, and think about the roller coaster metaphor, right? The anticipation and the fright and the scariness as you're going up to the top and you look down and it's so high and it's got the loop-de-loop and it's really scary. And then you finish the ride and you're going, okay, let's do that again. No, not always, but it is. Life is like that.
Yeah, so true. Yes, we never know what's going to happen next, and there's a lot of joy in that. If we knew everything was just going to be happy and rainbows and kittens, it might not be as interesting.
And unicorns and magic.
Uh-huh.
Well, what a lovely conversation
we've was had. Great. So again, to any of our listeners, if you are having any trouble with understanding where do I compromise or when do I stand in my truth and just be unapologetic for who I am and what my needs are, please reach out to us. You can reach me at defytheaverage@gmail.com or Marie
at mariesgoal.com, and we'd love to hear from you. This is our jam, being able to talk with people and learn more. So as you bring us your questions and concerns, we explore that for ourselves as well, and everyone benefits from it. So please let us know any questions or concerns you have.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening this week, and we look forward to touching back with you next week on Thursday. You can find us every day, once a week on Thursdays, and just look for Braveheart Conversations. Thank you guys so much for listening today.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.